Hi, you're listening to She Shield, your one-stop pod for all topics personal safety. I'm your host, Sofia, and my goal is to help educate women and men on concealed carry, martial arts, and all topics self-defense. This episode is sponsored by Big Tech's Ordnance, your soon-to-be favorite retailer for all of your firearms needs. BTO believes in only selling high-quality gear for responsibly armed citizens, as well as providing pre- and post-sale support. BTO values firearms training and supports firearms instructors nationwide. They even pay for their own staff to train with high-level instructors to ensure that when you, as the consumer, reach out, you are taken care of. All right, guys, I'm here with Lanny Barnes. I had the pleasure of meeting Lanny at the PCC Ladies World Training event out in the desert. 'Twas a couple days after just moving to Utah, and that was a pretty brutal intro to...
Wasn't it one day after moving to Utah?
Oh yeah, it was one day.
Yeah, I think you just threw everything, dropped everything off, and then drove away.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then got to hang out with you guys, which was the coolest experience in the world. I mean, it's one thing to just see what you all do to train, and then it was another to be in the trailer with you all, get to know you, and now you're one of my favorite people in the world, and I'm so glad we're here at the NRA 2025, I guess the national conference is what this is?
Yeah, they have it every year.
Yeah.
It's someplace different, so.
Yeah, we're in Atlanta, Georgia, of all places, in a hotel room. You can't tell, though, because it looks like a professional studio, but thank you so much for being here with me. You just got in today.
Yeah, a few hours ago, and happy and super excited to talk to you today because you are one of my favorite people now.
Oh my God. Okay, such a huge honor. And by the end of this episode, you guys, you're going to want to listen again. You're going to want to know everything about Lanny because, I mean, she's just so lovely. You are so lovely, and I feel honored to have you here. So for those that don't know, would you please introduce yourself?
My name is Lanny Barnes. I'm a 3-time Olympian, professional shooter, trick shooter, celebrity chef, artist, and public speaker. Okay, I actually didn't know the celebrity chef part. I know about the art. I try not to advertise it too much.
But why?
I used to do that all the time. My twin sister and I would travel around and do that. And I feel like it's gotten so difficult these days because everybody has some sort of issue with food that they can't eat, or they have an allergy or something like that. So it's so hard to cook for people these days and make everybody happy.
That's totally fair. I have a gluten sensitivity. Yeah. I would be annoying to cook for because all good things usually come with wheat. So,
well, that was one of the easier ones.
Ooh, what's the hardest one then?
Wow, I had some people that because a lot of the stuff we'd cook was wild game. Okay. And a lot of people, they wanted it, but they didn't. You know, they were afraid. They're like, oh, it's going to be gamey and it's going to be nasty, and so they'd be like, oh, well, I can't eat elk or duck or whatever. And then so I'd cook them a nice little chicken breast, and all of a sudden when everybody else was eating the elk and the duck and whatever, they'd be like, oh, well, can I try that? And then they'd just wolf it down.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite meal you've ever prepared?
That's a very tough question because I've never prepared the same meal twice.
Okay.
I'm one of those people that I experiment on people. So I always like just creating new, I call them works of art when I cook. So it's something different every time. And I don't ever go off a recipe. So there's been a lot of times where I've cooked a meal for a group of people or something, and they're like, what did you put in there? And I'm like, I don't know. And then I have to kind of try to remember, kind of estimate the portions and stuff so I can give them an actual recipe.
Wow. So. Okay, how incredible. It reminds me of that movie. None of this is planned, by the way. We're just rolling right now. What's that movie where all these really wealthy people come together on an island? Is it called The Menu? Does that sound familiar?
Is it the one where they all started dying?
Yes.
Okay.
Or maybe they don't start dying for those who haven't seen it.
Oh,
they definitely start dying. But such a good movie, twisted in a lot of ways. But yeah, he never prepares the same menu twice. Right. Maybe you should do that. Like have your own island, and then people can pay a lot of money to come. I would pay a lot of money, and then they maybe walk out alive from said island.
I would hope so, because I started watching that movie and I don't like scary movies, so I turned it off because I don't like watching scary movies. People started dying.
I remember that conversation in the trailer.
Yeah.
That was one of several because of the whole Skinwalker conversation.
Yep.
It also reminds me of my grandmother gave my mom her ginger penny recipe, and she did not put sugar in the ingredients. And for years we were like, these taste awful. She left out like 2 cups of sugar because she didn't want them to be as good as hers.
That's sad.
She really did that.
Yeah.
I don't know why it reminded me of that, but all that to say,
I wouldn't do that because like I'm okay with people creating whatever they want and trying to make it better because that's how the world works.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. But if I could, I should just, while I'm doing it, I should write down exactly what I put in it.
You could.
That would be the smart thing. But the problem is, I'll just start putting some stuff in and I'm like, oh, it needs a little bit of this, it needs a little bit of that. And
right.
So
would it be the same if you took away from your attention while you're cooking? Does that make sense?
Probably not. It probably would be the same.
It's kind of like when you're recording content as opposed to just being in the moment.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad this is the most fun intro I think I've ever had, talking about cooking in this way. Besides that, you've done so much, and I've never heard so many interesting stories in one sitting in the trailer. And of course, it's up to you what you want to repeat today, because, wow. Have you seen and done so many things? You mentioned game. So are all the meals you cooked from hunts you've gone on and animals you've taken yourself?
Not all of them, but quite a few of them are, yeah. I grew up hunting, and our family, we grew up on game meat. Mm-hmm. My parents, they always like to joke that the first time that we had cow in a restaurant, because my parents weren't super wealthy growing up, and my dad lived the American dream. He worked really hard and made a life for himself and his family. But the first time I had cow, we were probably maybe 11 or 12, and we were in a restaurant, and my sisters and I would tell our parents, we're like, there's something wrong with this meat. It must be bad. It's greasy. Mm-hmm. And it was just cow, and we'd never had it before. So that was our first exposure to cow. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's incredible.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about, at least the conversation that comes back to mind a lot from the trailer. I'm just going to say the trailer. That's just all these incredible conversations happen. Was how your environment influenced a lot of your experiences, and how growing up somewhere else would have led you to a completely different life. So it's Durango, right? That's a place you speak of often. You even said it's one of your favorite places. So what do you think about Durango so special in that it affected you to be who you are today?
Yeah, so Durango, Colorado is one of those places where you don't have an excuse not to do something outdoors. Like, the weather's always perfect. There's so many amazing things to do. There's so many really good athletes that come from Durango because there's mountain bikers, kayakers, rodeo guys, skiers, a little bit of everything. Just because, one, I think the altitude helps with the training. We talked a little bit about that, but I think, again, you don't have an excuse not to go train because it's amazing. And you don't have to go to the same place. I have run thousands and thousands of miles around that area and still haven't been on every trail. There's a lifetime worth of exploring in and around that area alone.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah.
So for those who haven't been and don't have a picture of Durango in their mind, is there like a movie or something that it's known for that we can use it for reference?
I don't know if there's a particular movie, but there's a coal train that goes up, narrow gauge railroad that goes up and over the mountain pass. Okay. Mesa Verde is real close.
Yes. Okay.
Which is really amazing. Super cool. And it's just our ski area is purgatory, place between heaven and hell.
Yes.
So,
as in super dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay. So I should learn there.
No.
Right.
It's actually kind of a family ski area. So it's actually not that difficult.
Yeah.
And I really like it. That's where we grew up skiing. But there's Silverton Mountain, which is a expert only area, which is really nice.
That's amazing.
So, and then Sean White trained out there for a while. He had a half pipe that he trained on for a couple of different Olympics.
That's a helpful reference for sure.
Yep.
Lena and I talk about this a lot. One of my toxic traits is thinking that I can do anything. Like the unicycle experience is one where like I look at it and I'm like, no, I could do that. And then I get on it and then I needed Lanny and Lena on either side of me in order to even go like 2 feet. So,
yeah, but you did it, and I think just with a little bit of work, you do just fine.
Yeah, that's, I appreciate that. I feel, yeah. And yeah, while we're here, which I know I want to get back to skiing, I want to talk about all of your amazing accomplishments and your stories. But yeah, tell us about the unicycle, because that was the coolest thing ever when you showed up and you had a mountain bike and a unicycle in your car. Commitment on another level. So tell us about it.
Yeah. So Durango also is kind of the mountain bike capital of the world. There's so many amazing biking there. And when we were training for the Olympics, which was biathlon, cross-country skiing and shooting, we were always looking for ways, because my twin sister and I are a little bit different. We always try to do things outside the box a little bit. And so we were trying to find ways of improving our balance. For skiing, you have to have incredible balance, and for cross-country skis, because the skis are, super thin, and, you can be on ice and there's no metal edges and stuff. So you have to have really good balance to be able to get enough glide that you need to propel yourself from the start to the finish and not die in between.
Right.
So we actually got the idea of unicycling from the rodeo guys in town, because we saw them and they were unicycling. We're like, whoa, that is so cool. And they're like, yeah, we do it to improve our balance, because up on the bowls and stuff, they have to be able to have really good balance too and not get bucked off. So we started unicycling, and it was just a fun way of building in training, because when you train at the Olympic level, the training is so intense that if you don't find ways to make it fun, you can get burnt out really easily. So that was one reason why we tried to think and look outside the box to be able to take a really long, arduous career and make it a little bit more fun.
Absolutely. I just pictured, you said bull riders, right? Mm-hmm. I just pictured them, like a group of them on unicycles. Is it as like silly as it sounds?
Yeah.
Wow.
Are you guys in Wranglers and cowboy boots just jumping on unicycles and,
I was about to say, not a bad thought, but a hilarious one. That's so funny. Yeah. And you rock it. In fact, Lanny's intro for the PCC YouTube video, Lena and I filmed while I was there, which should come out soon. And if it's coming out in time for this episode, I'll link it. I can always go back and link it. Anyway, Lanny's intro was riding up with her American flag PCC, jumping off of a unicycle, striding in, jumping off, and then introing herself, which is the most cool. You've ruined them for me, by the way. Like, no intro will ever live up to that. But
anybody, that's the goal. You guys got to top that one.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be such a fun thing to share. But yeah, cool. Thank you for sharing that. And even Lena hopped up on it, and I think that was her second time, so that was really fun.
Yeah, but, good.
Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, so you've mentioned skiing. Before we get in, of course, this leads up to the Olympic talk, and I know you've been interviewed quite a bit on this, so I feel thankful to learn other aspects of you and get this full-rounded picture of you, because you really are so amazing. So tell us how skiing came about, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so skiing in Durango, Colorado is probably the most amazing thing in the world. You can ski in shorts and a t-shirt pretty much all winter. Yeah. It's so mild there that it makes you fall in love with winter. Mm. And then you get this crazy idea in your head that, I can do a winter sport. I mean, winter's got to be like this everywhere. And if it's like this, it's got to be amazing, and found out the hard way. My first trip away from Colorado for a ski event, actually a biathlon race, I frostbit my ears so bad they've never been the same.
Oh,
since.
my goodness.
So it was a rude awakening that winter is not like Durango, Colorado in most places.
Right. Did you know it was happening? Did you feel your ears?
No, not at all. No. I came in and my parents had taken us to the race up in Lake Placid, New York, and my mom's like, "Oh my God, what's wrong with your ears? They're white." And they pretty much halfway down, my ears were completely white.
Oh my goodness.
And then for about 8 months after that, they'd crack and bleed, and
wow.
just were, and then they've never been the same. And when it gets to 40 degrees, they just go numb.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So how would you know? Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So, yeah. And from what I tell you.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I kind of got off track, but to get back on the skiing part. Yeah. So we grew up downhill skiing. Okay. And in a lot of the ski areas, there's this, in Colorado and in the West, there's this program called Buddy Warner. He was an Olympian, and he started a program for kids, and we were in the Buddy Warner ski program. And so we, never any desire to go to the Olympics for downhill skiing or anything. But we'd, cruise down the mountains. We'd hide from our ski instructors and go ski the cliffs, jump the cliffs and the tree trails, and typical Durango kid things. Yeah. And then we were playing soccer and trying to get in shape in the winter, and downhill wasn't enough. So we started cross-country skiing and discovered biathlon and just fell in love with it.
Absolutely. And your story of going from soccer to biathlon is so funny because both are incredibly difficult. And when I say that, I have no idea what I'm talking about. Let me just zoom out here. I've never skied. And
we're going to change that.
Oh, listen,
teach you how.
Listen, I would love that. I would love to GoPro it all so people can see me scream and also see you laugh, because I know there's going to be a lot of that. Not that we have to film it, but also it'd be hilarious to watch later. I filmed my first 14er climb, and the whole time it's just me being like, why did I do this? Why did I do this? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, it's amazing. But I did play intramural soccer. I don't even know what to call it. It's not even for people in college. My ex-husband started a soccer team, and it was difficult. It was like, oh my gosh, you run so much, and right. Depending on your position, you're maybe not even involved in the moment. You're just like, you could go even like a whole half of the game without ever touching the ball, and all you're doing is running. And it's like, to do that on a professional level, and then to be like, you know what? Anyway, I'd love for you to tell that story, the you know what part, where you're like, why did you change? What made you make the change? So
again, back to the fact that my twin sister and I are probably not normal, not right in the head, maybe not enough oxygen living at altitude our whole life. But so we were really, really good at soccer. Like, that was our sport. Like, it came naturally. We were good at it. We worked hard at it. And that's what we wanted to go to the Olympics for. And that's what we were convinced we were going to go to the Olympics for. And then when we started Nordic skiing and biathlon, we were absolutely horrible. Like, the worst kids on the team. Like, we were not even contenders. Like, no coach would have looked at us and said, those girls are going to be Olympians someday. And it was the first thing in our life that we did that we were really, really bad at. And so for us, it was motivation to try to get good at something that we weren't good at. And so when we had to make that decision between going towards our Olympic soccer dreams or pursuing biathlon and trying to become the first women to medal in that sport, we're like, you know what? Let's do something really hard and difficult and go to all the cold, miserable places in the world. And let's do this. This sounds like fun. So we dove into that and said, we're not going to quit until we figure this out.
I love that. It's the saying, on a crack, of course, of like no good things that are easy are worth it or something. It's only the challenging. I'm sure it's a much more beautiful quote. It's like very loosely in my head.
That was pretty close. You almost nailed it. Yeah.
Okay, what is it?
Yeah.
Tell us.
Well,
how do you remember it / interpret?
I think it's nothing worth pursuing is easy.
Beautiful. You also embody it. So like, yeah. Anyway, okay. Yes. Beautiful. And I remember, when you were telling the story, you mentioned soccer and I was like, oh, soccer is so hard. And I think at that point, I didn't totally understand what sport you had done in the Olympics. Lena had told me driving up, but we had also been talking about so much, like prepping for the YouTube video. You know, I was taking notes in the car on my computer while she was driving. She was telling me about you. I'd seen you at the shotgun qualifier. Also, she shoots shotgun. You do so much. Oh my gosh, we're not even going to touch the edge of it. But it didn't hit me that you not only ski, but you also shoot. And then you have to shoot accurately while your cardiovascular system is like at its max. So how do you strike that balance? How do you come to a place where you just went from an outright sprint on ice to coming down enough with your heart rate to be able to shoot accurately?
That's the common misconception.
Really?
Yeah, you don't bring your heart rate down.
Okay.
You try to come in as hard as possible because if you think of an EKG, right, the more time between beats, the more translates into barrel movement. So let's say at 130 beats per minute, it's going to be like this. Mm-hmm. At 180, there's less time between beats, so your barrel doesn't have time to rise and fall as much. So it's more of a little hum like that. So if you can handle the lack of oxygen and mentally just being smoked, you come in with a heart rate around 180 beats per minute, and the shooting is actually easier with less perceived barrel movement.
I had no idea.
So, yeah.
I had zero idea.
Yeah,
I'm so glad I didn't.
When the sport first evolved, they would calm their heart rate down because they'd kind of ski in loosely and calm their heart rate down and do little Zen tricks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the sport evolved so much that it became so popular in Europe that you couldn't afford time to let your heart rate drop. And so they realized that by coming in really, really hard, it actually was easier. So, yeah, because the athletes, like in Europe, nobody in the U.S. knows what biathlon is, but in Europe, the top athletes are making over €1 million a year. So it's a big deal over there.
Well, yeah. Did you consider going and being part of their team at all? Did that ever?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. The problem, I love this country so much that there were a few athletes that we trained with that ended up doing that. They had dual citizenship or something like that, and then they went over to another country, and I could never do that, even for the money. Like, I'd rather scrape by and eat ramen noodles and compete for Team USA than go over to another country and compete under a different flag. So
I love that. And you're about to go compete for Team USA at the PCC World Shoot in the Czech Republic not too long from now.
Yeah, it's like a few weeks from now.
Yeah,
it's scary.
How are you feeling about that? Just small deviation there. It's scary. What's going on?
Good. I mean, I've been over and competed, not for this particular competition, but in biathlon, we had races in the Czech Republic. So this is actually the first time I'm going to the Czech Republic when there isn't snow on the ground.
Ooh.
So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Totally different experience, I'm sure.
I've been to Europe in the summer, but we were in different countries training. So it'll be nice to see it in the summer.
Absolutely. So, and you've got an awesome team to go out and have fun with, I hope. I hope you guys can celebrate. Yeah. And I won't be there because of my sister's wedding, but man, I'd love to see you guys. You guys were amazing in training, so I'm so excited. So cool.
Yeah. We'll miss you.
Oh, thank you. Yes, hopefully I will be there for the shotgun one in one way or another. But yeah, so let's talk about the shooting part. I don't actually understand what gun you compete with. You mentioned 22 caliber. Okay, and that is all I know. And there are a few things I didn't ask you in the desert because, one, I just wanted to like hear where your stories went. I didn't want to, stop your flow. Another is because I wanted to hear it on the podcast and like ask you here.
Yeah. So in biathlon, they use 22 caliber rifles and they're bolt action. It's a straight pull bolt, so it's not your traditional straightforward and down. Right. So it makes it really fast. And then also something people don't realize is we use iron sights. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. So how far out are your targets typically?
50 meters. A little over 50 yards.
Below 50 yards, is that what you said?
A little bit over 50 yards.
A little bit over.
Yeah.
For those listening, self-defense scenario training, whatever, is usually anywhere between 3 and 7 yards. That's where I teach women at. Sometimes we get a little spicy and we'll go out to like 10, 15. 50 with irons is pretty wild. In my head, at least.
Yeah. Well, the reason why we use irons is because in the winter, when you're breathing hard, if you have scope, you'll fog it up your first breath, and then you won't be able to see through the scope. So, it's irons, and will always forever be irons because of that. Unless someone comes up with a true anti-fog, which I've never seen anybody that's been able to do that.
Like a heated glass moment or something like that?
Yeah, if that probably would add too much weight.
That's a good point.
Then you'd have to haul that around and...
Yeah. So how heavy are your guns here? They're slung around you. I've seen pictures.
Yeah, okay. So you carry it on your back like a backpack, and you actually can't have it less than 7.5 pounds.
Oh, okay.
But we found that 8.5 pounds was kind of the perfect weight limit as far as shooting offhand, because if it was too light, then you'd get blown around in the wind, because we were always competing in blizzards and really nasty weather. And then if you got too heavy, then obviously it'd slow you down in the skiing. Right. So 8.5 pounds was kind of the perfect weight.
And again, for those listening, so the only reference I have for that is I'm training for the tactical games right now. I was supposed to compete in South Carolina when it got canceled, and my rifle is about 8 pounds. And I remember, like with my Vortex, scope, and just like I believe it's a duty rifle. Technically, it's really not meant for competition. It's meant to last in harsh times, and it's reliable. It's Overwatch precision psionics, and I remember being like, this is so heavy. Like I have to like run with this a little bit, but I can't imagine the amount you have to do with that. So, so that's the conversation, the balance between like weight. So not heavy, not too heavy to where it's adding too much of a physical toll, but heavy enough to help with recoil is what I'm hearing. Okay.
Well, no, not necessarily the recoil, but just the wind and things like that.
Oh my gosh, yeah, because you're moving.
Yeah.
Wild to me.
Yeah. So it was interesting because with the weight, there was all this fine balance of having too much weight or that would slow you down on the skiing. Mm-hmm. We this is funny, but we would even take the tags out of our clothing because we didn't want to carry the extra weight. But you think about it, those tiny little things, every time you lift up your foot, you're lifting all of your weight, and so over time, if you're doing that thousands and thousands of times over the period of a course, even your ski poles, like ours were incredibly light, because if let's say you had to pick up a 1 pound 1,000 times versus a 10 pound 1,000 times, there's a big difference, so every tiny little bit of weight counted. So we'd, sometimes we wouldn't even wear earrings and just like the bare bones minimum, like our spandex, I don't know if I should say this, but
go for it.
Nothing underneath because we didn't want the extra weight of like a thong or anything like that, because it adds up, you know? So
totally fair.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
What insider information I did not expect to get today. That's hilarious. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. And then as far as being like I would assume you need to be like, aerodynamics, probably not the right word, right? Because
we really wouldn't worry about that as much because we didn't pick up speeds like they did in downhill skiing.
I see.
But we did have specialized suits that Adidas made us. You know, in the swimmers, when they have their special little skin suits.
Yes.
They were supposedly designed to help them to be able to perform better. Well, they had that for us where we'd have these stripes on our suits that would help support our muscles that supposedly made us ski faster.
That is awesome.
So it felt good. I don't know if it really actually made us any faster or not, but you just felt kind of supported.
Of course.
Otherwise, it's just, you know, spandex that eventually over the period of the winter got looser and looser because you just kept losing so much weight.
Right. And felt's not the right word. What is it called? When you have like fleece. Is it fleece lined?
Not at all, no.
So you're freezing the whole time.
Well, not when we're racing, but before and afterwards, you froze your tail off. Yeah. I mean, imagine the thinnest spandex you could find.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
That's what we wore.
Wow.
And sometimes it was, 20 below. And yes, while you're racing, you were warm because you're going really hard. But that moment before and that moment afterwards, you just, like, this is miserable. You get cold so quickly.
Does it kind of encourage you to take off faster?
Well, you couldn't, because the way like our starts worked is you'd like 10 minutes before the start, you go into this little corral, the start area, and there you just run around waiting for your start time.
Oh.
And you'd have your gun in there, and you'd have warm-ups on, things like that, and then like a minute or so before your start, maybe a little bit more than that, a couple minutes before you start, you take all your clothes off, strip down to your race suit, which is just that thin spandex, put your gun on, and then you ski up to the line of girls waiting to start. And then you go into the start gate and you start one at a time. Yeah. And that couple minutes while you're waiting there to start, oh my gosh, you just freeze so bad because you're in, really thin spandex and it's 20 below.
Right.
So that was brutal.
Yeah, I can imagine. All I'm imagining right now is The Incredibles when they get their super costumes. I'm sorry.
Their super costumes look a little bit thicker than ours were, though.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I feel like I'm... Yes. All I could think of is the baby demonstration right now, but I'm going to come back into the interview now because that's... I'm just kidding. But no, that's so incredible. So do you still ski right now recreationally?
I do, yeah. I don't... people ask me all the time if I'd go back to racing biathlon just for fun, and the answer is absolutely not. Okay. Because when you compete at such a high level like that, and then you retire and you're not in as good a shape and you go do it for fun, like there's no... Like you have certain expectations and you know what it's supposed to feel like when you're in incredible shape and an Olympic athlete, and you could not just run a mountain, you can run mountain ranges. When you're retired, it doesn't feel the same, so it's just miserable. So I'll never go do that to myself. I wouldn't put myself through that because I wouldn't enjoy it, and it just setting myself up for a lot of misery and pain and torture.
Totally fair. Absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of, we've talked a little bit about the Olympics and what it was like to be in the Olympics, which, I have the classic experience of my mom loves Winter Olympics. She loves, of course, ice skating is her favorite. She cries anytime one of the, anytime one of the athletes falls, or you can just tell there's something wrong and their face looks bad. She's like thinking of the parents and what it's like to be there. And so I have the consumer version of it all. We talked a little bit about it, and of course, privacy and whatever you want to share today is completely up to you and your comfort level, of course. But for those that don't know the behind the scenes and what it's like, would you be willing to share a little bit of that?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. The Olympics, like when you go to an Olympic Games, it's very similar to the regular World Championships that we'd have, where there'd be 50,000 people in the stadium, the spectators and stuff. So there's a lot of people, but there's so much more that goes into Olympics. Like I'd say the only time you have alone is that tiny little bit of moment where you're sleeping. And then every other waking moment, there's something going on, whether it's an interview, whether you're getting ready to go race or train. There's no quiet moments at the Olympics, and there's so much around it. And I think the thing that makes the Olympics one of the most special sporting events in the year of all sports is because it only comes around once every 4 years. Like, you don't get a shot at it every couple weeks or every year or whatever. It's every 4 years. And you have to be on at that moment every 4 years. And to do that is one of the hardest things in the world. You know, you could train for 4 years straight and be the best possible athlete in the world at your sport, and you could get sick, or you could trip, or, you know, something could happen and your moment is gone just like that. And that's why it puts so much drama on those Olympic Games, is because it only comes around once every 4 years.
Yeah. The only relation I have to that, not that it matters, is like, I've looked forward to a date before and I've been like, man, I really hope I don't get a cold right before this date. That would suck.
Yeah.
Because then I'd have to reschedule that date. This is I cannot imagine 4 years. Like, I think that's pretty unfathomable for people outside of the sport. And I'd love to know, in the 4 years, like, if you could give us kind of a general outline of what it was like to build up to the competition. How did those years look differently, or was it just kind of a cycle of training depending on weather, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Olympic year was always the hardest year. You'd always ramp it up, and then you'd have a peak right before the Olympics or whatever. But the 4 year period, and again, to put the pressure on that, you can equate it to like doing the bar or going to med school. Mm-hmm. But when you have your test at the end, like, you don't have another opportunity to take it again. So it's really difficult in that sense. But
right.
You know, it's just like you know, going to med school or things like that. That every year is the same. Like, you go to World Cups and World Championships every year, but the 4 years you're building up to try to be better and better every year. Mm-hmm. So after Olympics, it's kind of like a little bit of a recovery year, but kind of building up a lot of endurance. And then every year you gradually increase more and more VO max and, you know, stuff like that to try to be at your absolute peak during the Olympic Games. And our training program was full time. You know, a lot of people. I've been accused by a lot of people, including doctors, that Olympic athletes are lazy and we just sit around and watch TV all day. But we literally trained all day long.
Wait, I'm sorry. Who said that?
Well, actually, an anesthesiologist said that to my twin sister and I. He's like, it must be easy for you guys to just sit around and watch TV all day.
Oh, he's one of those guys who was born with like half a brain, right? I've heard of them. It's so sad. They don't develop in the wound.
Right. Yeah. Maybe he was trying too much of his product. But anyways, so we trained all day, every day. Usually we'd have 1 day off a week, but it was... those days we were shooting, we were watching technique videos. You know, it wasn't, we were doing stuff for our sponsors. It wasn't like just, hey, let's just go to the mall and hang out or whatever. It was work every single day. So usually we get up at like 4 or 5-ish, go for a short little jog, 15 minutes, flush the lactic acid and whatnot from the day before. And then we'd stretch, have breakfast, go out for a main workout of the day. I know what you're going to say. Yeah. Go out for a main workout of the day, which was anywhere from 2 to 4 hours of physical activity, running, biking, skiing, roller skiing, in the gym, sometimes combined with shooting, sometimes not. So, and then we'd have lunch. We'd take a nap because you physically are expending so much energy that you have to. Sleep is very important. So we take a short little nap. Then we go off our second main workout of the day, anywhere from another 2 to 4 hours of physical activity. And then in the evening, it'd be shooting, dry fire, watching video, cleaning guns, and then eat dinner and go to bed. And then get up in the next morning and repeat.
So the first part of your day, like the one before lunch, I thought that was your whole day. I was like, cool. And then you have dinner, right? Yeah. Also, sorry, I have no poker face. I have never even tried to play poker because I would be terrible. Could never murder someone because I would tell the cop immediately kind of thing. All that to say, the reason I was kind of giggling earlier is because Lanny was telling Lena and I about, what was it? And you're like, it was a short bike. You were like, I went out for a short while on my bike. Are you in search of top-notch gear that exceeds your expectations? Look no further than GPS, brought to you by Go Outdoors Incorporated. GPS has been dedicated to crafting the finest products for hunting and shooting since 2002. As someone who frequents the gun range, my GPS bag is a staple to safely and effectively haul my gear. My personal favorite is the GPS Tall Range Backpack, which makes walking USPSA stages simple and organized. Their specialized bags are designed to keep all of my valuable equipment secure and organized. With GPS, you can experience the ultimate peace of mind. There are 3 exciting product lines: GPS Tactical, GPS Wild About Hunting, and GPS Wild About Shooting provide the perfect solution for your specific needs. So whether you're on a hunting expedition or hitting the range, GPS is your reliable companion. To find a bag that fits your needs, use code SHESHIELD20, that's SHESHIELD 20, to save and to support the pod. Again, that's SHESHIELD20 at checkout. And then you were like 19 miles or something?
No, oh yeah, we looked that up. So our coaches, it was, I think it was like 59 miles.
Jesus. Yep, that's just triggered the memory.
Or maybe it was, I don't know. People have to look it up, but yeah. Our coaches would make us bike from Duluth, Minnesota to Grand Rapids, Minnesota.
Yeah.
We were living and training in Duluth at that time. And so I was telling you guys a story. So there's this place called Betty's Pies, halfway between Duluth and Grand Rapids. And so what we do is our coaches knew how long it would take at a certain heart rate. They knew how long it should take us to get from point A to point B. And so what we did is we would haul ass to Betty's Pies. We'd eat a pie, and then we'd hop back on our bikes and then go up to Grand Rapids. And then once we got up there, they made us run for another 2 to 4 hours or whatever after that. So the pie was totally worth it because it helped us sustain through our workout. But
yeah, it was so funny. You were like, it's not that far. And we're thinking like, cool. Like, I think this was the point where you looked it up and...
Yeah, I can't remember how far it was.
Right. And Lena and I both... We both looked at each other across the room in the trailer, of course, while you were looking it up. And we were in shock. And then we were laughing so hard on the way home. We were like, remember when she said this? And we're just so in awe of you. Sorry, my brain's still wrapping around that concept. Incredible. So that was 6 out of your 7 days, like what you just described, where you hit the ground running and then you pass out, I'm sure, at night, just right away.
Yeah.
That was 6 out of the 7 days of your week for 4 years leading up to the event.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah, we'd get 2 weeks off in the spring, but we always had good intentions of going on a vacation, but we'd be so tired that we'd just sleep for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then we'd start our training again for the next year.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I can't even do SHOT Show without needing a couple weeks.
SHOT Show's brutal. There's something about SHOT Show that is just exhausting.
Brutal?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
a different kind of... I don't know what kind of training you could do to feel better at SHOT Show. I mean, maybe if they moved NRA, because it's only 3 days, like a month or 2 before, then you can kind of use it as training to get ready for SHOT Show. But
you could.
Yeah.
You could. Or you could fly out after day 1 of NRA, which is what I'm doing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I leave tomorrow. But you guys are having some fun on the weekend.
We are. I think we're going to go to a concert.
Yes. I booked my airline ticket mere minutes before. I swear it was minutes. It was probably an hour or so. Lena and I were sitting in her kitchen and I was booking my flight, and And then you all jumped in the group chat and I was like, crap.
Oh, shoot.
Like, right away. Yeah, but it worked out. Yeah. I'll tell you later why, because I've got some plans for Saturday. But yeah, I'm excited for you guys. It's going to be awesome. And you've got the hat. You've got the boots.
You got the boots and the hat.
America boots, the American flag boots. Oh man, there's so many places I want to go from here. You talked about the Olympics. You talked about what it's like to prepare and the day-to-day training. Were there any particular years? So from what I understand, you went to 3 Olympics. So that's 12 years. I can do basic math sometimes. 12 years of preparing and training like that. What would you say changed in your training the most from year 1 to 12?
Well, what I gained every year was experience, and experience is so incredibly valuable if you're willing to use it to help you improve. When I went to my first Olympics in 2006, my twin sister and I went together, and I was so green, like my eyes were this big, both of us, and we were super nervous, and there's so much going on that we were just overwhelmed by it all. And gradually, as you gain experience, you learn to not waste as much energy, because being at an event like that, there's so much stimuli, because there's so much going on, TV cameras in your face all the time, interviews, all this stuff. And it's hard to kind of get some downtime and relax and things like that, and not waste a lot of energy in the stuff outside of the thing you're actually there for, which is competing and performing at your highest level. So I think it's just one of those things that every year you gain more and more experience.
Absolutely. Do you ever have difficulty going into other events or hobbies with a lower level of intensity?
I do. Yeah. After the Olympics, every event has been challenging because it's hard for me to put enough pressure on myself. Because there's no TV cameras, there's no 50,000 spectators yelling at you. There's nothing. It's just not. There's not as much surrounding it. So a lot of times I end up being too relaxed and not enough focus, because it doesn't have that same like really super intense feeling. So I've even for and I spent my entire life learning how to relax in stressful situations. So now, like, any little bit of stress and I'm like, no big deal, and I'm way too relaxed. And I need, like, I do my best. I thrive off of adrenaline and pressure and stress. Like, that's when I'm at my best. And, I always tell people I shoot better at a heart rate of 180 beats per minute than I do at resting heart rate. Because that's what I did, and I would shoot better in front of 50,000 people than I would just a squad of people at a nationals or something like that.
Right.
Just because that's what I'm used to. That's my happy place.
Right. So like competing at Worlds, for example, if you had to rank it, so 10 being Olympic pressure, where would you put like World PCC competition coming up this May?
I would put it even, that's challenging because I was I feel like I was so incredibly spoiled competing in the best shooting sport on the planet. And the only reason why I say that, I'm not saying it's better than any other shooting sport out there. It's better only because they've created such an incredible culture around it, that it creates a much more exciting atmosphere than any other shooting sporting event that I've ever been to. I mean, you have 30 to 50,000 people behind you screaming while you're shooting. I've never experienced that in any other shooting discipline that I've ever done. Yeah. So when I go to these world championships, the cool thing is, like, there's the opening ceremonies, which are, I would rank it similar to a World Cup opening ceremonies. but even then there's not that same feeling. And so for me, it's hard to put enough pressure on myself. I need 50,000 people behind me screaming their heads off. So
can it be one super loud person? Like, what if I bring an amp?
Totally.
Really?
Yep. That would help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang it. Okay. And I have to call my sister and cancel the wedding.
Well,
sorry, Jade. Just kidding.
No, it's not worth it.
No. Yeah.
Keep the wedding going.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. That's so funny. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. Like, I think we had talked about, and not to get off track or whatever,
Please.
but so to dive into the psychology of things, right? Mm-hmm. So the more you do something, the more you become, you're desensitized to it, right? Mm-hmm. And it becomes easier and easier. Like the first time you go driving a car, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous or whatever, like for your driving test. But then after that, 10, 20 years later, you hardly even pay attention while you're driving. Yeah. And it's not a big deal, right?
Yes.
So it's the same kind of psychology, and that we'll say for military and law enforcement. Back in World War I and World War II, a lot of our troops they found that they really had a hard time engaging the enemy. A lot of times they would look away when they shot, or they'd purposely try to miss because their training didn't prepare them to take another life, right? And so gradually over time, our training has become more realistic and better to help prepare our troops to be able to do what they need to do, right? And so essentially it desensitizes them to what they have to do. And it's the same for the Olympics. We train day in and day out to be able to block out that 50,000 people and the TV cameras and the pressure of what we were doing and things like that. And so we desensitized ourselves to any sort of stimuli around us. And so when it was ultra mega stimulation, it really wasn't that bad for us. So when when I go when I go to these other competitions, it's just a completely different atmosphere. And it's challenging to get that same level of excitement because there's not that same kind of stimuli. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes a lot of sense. I love me some psychology talk too. So, no, absolutely beautiful. And when did you get introduced to USPSA? And you do USPSA a bit as well, right?
Yeah.
Not a bit. You do it. Oh my God. I should have known this before the interview. This is embarrassing.
Oh, don't worry about
How much USPSA have you done? Are you going to handgun world as well?
No.
Okay.
I've done one USPSA handgun match.
Oh, okay.
With a borrowed gun.
I knew that.
So no. But I've done multi-gun USPSA multi-gun, and
yes.
And I've gone to shotgun worlds, rifle worlds,
right.
And I've done a lot of other outlaw shooting competitions, 3-gun and 2-gun, and stuff like that, and action shooting.
Okay. Ooh, yes.
All the action shooting sports. Yeah. But yeah, my twin sister and I started jumping into action shooting around 2010 because we were looking for ways of improving our shooting for biathlon.
Right.
And because you reach a certain level and you're like, okay, I'm literally, we were some of the best biathlon shooters in the world.
Right.
And when you take just the shooting portion. And so we're like, how do we get even better?
Right.
And so we're like, well, we cross train for skiing, we bike, we run, all this other stuff. Let's cross train for shooting. So we jumped into action shooting sports.
Right. That's incredible.
So, yeah.
And which platform has been your favorite so far?
I don't know. I would say I don't know. Whichever one I'm shooting at the time.
Yeah, that makes sense. It has to be.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Kind of have to fall in love with it, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. A little bit.
Yeah.
So right now, PCC?
Right now, PCC.
Which is fun. I shot PCC for a second of all the hours you guys trained there.
And you did amazing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But it was it was really nice to have I don't want to call it the stability, but like, yeah, a little bit more of the stability of a rifle or longer platform, with a smaller caliber compared to like the 223 5.56 I normally shoot. And, yeah, I would think like that feels more fun. I recently shot a shotgun for the first time the other day, by the way, like truly. I filmed it. It's hilarious.
Like
I can't wait to show you.
Open?
No.
Oh,
modified. Okay. Which this will be the first time I think I actually talk about it anywhere. Just at all mentioning it. So wink, wink to the future. But all that to say, yeah, PCC was definitely not as painful. not that shotgun was like, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't hitting a nerve per se. But I was like, how do you guys shoot this many rounds on the move, like after already being sore from like training and competing and doing everything you do? It's so impressive. So it's cool to know that your favorite is whichever one you're shooting, and not just like the one that takes the less physical or least physical toll, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just rambling from my like very like short and isolated experiences. That's interesting to me. I don't know.
Well, and it goes back to, and I would say like rifle is probably always my go-to because that's what I did in Olympics, and I love it. But it goes back to that craziness where I think I like handgun the most in general because that's the one I'm not very good at. I gravitate towards it and tend to do more of it because I'm not as good at it. And I'm like, I've got to figure this short little thing out and figure out how to, you know, hold it and make my hits.
And by not as good at it, I'm still very, very good. At your level, saying that does not mean the same thing as me not saying it. But yeah, would you say it's more difficult just because it's a smaller platform? It takes like more kind of fine motor skills in a way, or?
I think it's because I didn't grow up with it.
Okay.
I didn't start shooting handguns until I was in my 20s.
Okay.
And I picked one up for self-defense reason because there's a lot of crazy people that like to stalk Olympians. So I'm like, I'm going to, even though I carry a gun on a daily basis, it's a 22 rifle, and that's not ideal or good for self-defense. So started getting into handgun, and you know, I didn't grow up with it. And I would say, you know, we shot a lot of long guns primarily growing up. And so, and I don't know why my dad didn't get us into handguns much, but I would say just being three, my older sister, my twin sister, and I, three kind of tiny little girls, we were almost afraid of them in a way.
Yeah.
So
did it have to do with the exposure you had to hunting?
Probably, yeah, because we were more hunting oriented than competition.
I see.
And then, you know, and we just really didn't have a lot of opportunities. And living in the small town of Durango that we lived in, and there wasn't a lot of crime and things like that, so we didn't think that we ever needed a firearm for self-defense.
Right. So, okay, this is a topic. I wasn't sure how it was going to come up. So I appreciate you kind of cueing us here.
Yeah.
Concealed carry, self-defense, all of that. To kind of connect the worlds, how has being an Olympian and training at that level of pressure, you said you stay calm in a lot of situations. How is that translated to the life of a woman living in this world who is just always trying to find ways to be safer, as we do?
Yeah, so I think there was a huge crossover. You know, two things that we learned really well in Olympics, in our Olympic training to do was, one was to ignore pain, which I don't recommend because it could lead to, you know, you doing things that later you find out you're like, oh, that's actually pretty painful, but I just didn't realize it at the time. And then two, overcoming stressful situations and just being really calm and relaxed in it. And I think the first time that I really realized that my training had worked was I was still in the Olympics, but I was driving down this highway, and I don't even remember where it was at the time, but I had just finished competing in a action shooting match, and it was a lot of rain and everything, and I was in the fast lane as usual. And all of a sudden, the car in front of me stopped in the middle of the highway for who knows why. And luckily I had given him enough space, so I slammed on my brakes and stopped. Didn't hit him, but then I looked in the rearview mirror and I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna get hit. And right then my whole body just relaxed. And then I got hit, got pushed in the car in front of me, and no whiplash, nothing. Like, it just was, perfect. And my body did what it was supposed to. And I realized, I'm like, oh, wow. And then I started noticing in other situations where I'd, encounter, because we talked about this, you spend enough time in the world and the world will come after you, and I found that in the situations and the difficult situations that I've encountered, I was able to stay very calm. And I think that's why it ended up working out better than it should have. Just because I was able to stay calm and relaxed in those situations. I think anytime I get a burst of adrenaline and the body goes into that fight or flight situation, my natural instinct, because of training, is to just go into a really calm state and be able to think my way through it. And that's only the result of years and years and years of training.
Incredible. How many times have you seen the back of my throat at this point with me dropping my jaw? Like, literally, like, I feel so bad. I feel like I'm breathing on you at some point. I don't even realize my jaw's dropped, but I'm trying to think of this. So have you, and this is up to your comfort level, we can talk about this after between us, we can never talk about it. As far as self-defense scenarios go, have you been in one where you've had to either defend yourself, defend others, and that calmness has helped? Mm-hmm. Has it ever been a detriment?
No, I would say it's always been helpful. Every situation that I've either had to defend myself or others, it has come back to be incredibly helpful, because it's almost like when those things happen, I get in this state of, it's similar, I would say, to being in the zone for competing, where everything is clear, like everything's kind of almost in slow-mo. You can see things happening before they do. And so yeah, I think it's helped out significantly. There's one situation, and most bad things happen when you're not paying attention and when you let your guard down. And as an Olympian, we had a lot of stalkers and stuff like that, so we knew that we should always be paying attention. I was at a competition, a 3-gun competition, many years ago on the East Coast, and one of my stalkers had found out where I was and was waiting for me at my hotel. Found out where I was staying and everything, and naturally, like most competitions, the awards ceremony didn't get out until like midnight or 1 a.m. or whatever. So I drove back to my hotel, and it was dark and raining and stuff like that. And I was so tired, I let my guard down, and I left my hotel room open, and I was hauling stuff in and out of the car to my room. And a guy ran up behind me and bear hugged me and, grabbed me. And we both fell to the ground, and I was able to fight him off. But obviously, before that happened, I didn't know it was happening because I wasn't paying attention.
Right.
But after that moment, like as soon as we hit the ground, like I didn't feel a thing, and it was almost like I knew exactly what to do, even though I wouldn't say that I'm this self-defense guru or anything like that. I was thinking clearly, and I didn't feel panic at any moment. And so, and I felt in control of the situation, even though at the moment when we were falling, I wasn't. So it's kind of hard to explain. But yeah, I think, out of all the different situations, like there were obviously some early on in my career where I didn't have that same feeling because I wasn't trained for it. It took me many years to build up to that point. But yeah, early on in my career, and it's just like anything, the more you encounter bad or stressful situations, the easier the next one becomes. So,
right.
And we were just between Russia and the Eastern Bloc countries and just always being, kind of all over the country, not all over the country, all over the world, and being a big target, especially with the USA jersey. You encounter a lot more situations than you would, if you just probably hang out at your hometown and not get out much.
Right.
So.
Wow. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that. I'm sure it's not fun to relive at all. So I appreciate your vulnerability so much. And yeah, I would imagine, I'm trying to think of, I feel like this is only portrayed, I feel bad. All of my analogies that I'm pulling from your stories are just, they're ridiculous. And I'm going to listen back to this and be like, Sophia, but I'm thinking of the hero story in the movie where they're training and like everything's in slow motion and they're just calm and they're defending everything. And it's like, that they've trained for years, that they're this person that like went dark and trained for so long. And that's kind of what that reminds me of. And my training is not at that level. I've done combatives for years. Something I am comfortable with and I don't think about is if someone gets close to me. I've been around so many like combative situations in close quarters that like someone getting close to me and in my space doesn't panic me. It's just like, okay, cool. Now I'm going to see how I can use that to get out. But yeah, I've never been attacked, very luckily enough. It's only ever been like uncomfortable situations, dating, on dates, things like that, where you're like, ooh, I should go now. Or like, you should go now. Right. Things like that, the classic. But yeah, I can't imagine what that must have been like. I'm so glad you got away. That's good. Is he put away? I'm just curious. Is this someone that is like... Yeah,
they found the guy. I mean, back when we were training for the Olympics, it was nice because when you're Olympian, the FBI handles a lot of that stuff. It's a lot of people think that Olympics are government funded, but it's not. It's all privately funded. But that's the one thing that the U.S. government helps with is security for those big events.
Yeah.
But when you're done with the Olympics, you're pretty much on your own. So like if we get a stalker email or letter or whatever, when we were training for the Olympics, we just pass it along and they take care of it. But afterwards, we had to learn how to handle those things, handle those situations ourselves.
Absolutely. And where did your concealed carry training come into play? Did you get formal training, like drawing from inside the waistband, any like combatives, anything like that? I did all the training on my own. So, and I wouldn't say that good or bad, who knows? I wouldn't, and again, I don't call myself the self-defense guru or anything like that, because everything I've done on my own, but things, excuse me, that I've observed and watched from other people, following people and stuff like that, and tried them out on my own. And, and in general, it's a lot of things that I learned from personal experiences. Because we, unfortunately, when we were traveling, we'd spend 6 to 8 months out of every year in Europe or overseas. And so in those places, we had our rifles, but, we weren't carrying them with us all the time. So it wasn't even considered a self-defense tool. Right.
And so we were over there in Europe pretty much defenseless because we didn't have anything. Obviously, it didn't have any like hand-to-hand training, that kind of stuff too, which would have been a good thing. The U.S. Olympic Committee, they trained us a little bit on what to do and things like that, but it's very, very minimal.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. Also, when would you have the time? You told us about your day. Right. I don't know when you could have worked in a jiu-jitsu class. And also, if you broke your index finger and then you couldn't compete or you couldn't train for 3 to whatever, how many months.
Right. Yeah, that'd be horrible.
Yeah. So it's a very tight, so there's no expectation there. It sounds like your training alone of just managing your emotional state and your heart rate and everything has survived you to this point. and is translated well, and you're also incredibly strong. So like, I bet that combination is brutal. And if you ever did martial arts, I would fear for the person you ever had to go against if you ever got in a cage or something. It would be just so sad, but for the other person, of course. But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I've wondered what your approach on all of that is. I know you're pro 2A, and you're an incredibly empowering force to the women around you. So, yeah, is there anything you would recommend to people who are maybe feeling timid to get into shooting for the first time when it comes to personal protection, and they have no background, no skills, when it's soft or hard, when it comes to self-defense?
Yeah, I would say, I had to start somewhere. And I didn't start shooting handguns until I was in my 20s. And so, I've been in that same position where I was terrified to pick up a handgun and shoot it. Even though I'd shot guns my whole life, I still was terrified of a handgun, even though it wasn't going to do anything to me. And, I think getting a group of people that can help you and support you through that journey is important. Finding the right trainers is really important, and actually getting training, because I did a lot of that stuff on my own, and that's just who I am, and I've pretty much everything I've done in my life I've kind of been self-taught. Cooking, my artwork, a lot of the shooting stuff has been, a majority of it's been self-taught. And so but I don't recommend that. I think majority of people can avoid a lot of lessons by going to professionals and helping them guide them through their journey quicker than having this, learning phase where, you make a lot of mistakes.
Right. Of course. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. Truly, sounds like it's all worked out, and you've mentioned so many survival stories. It's just, man, I wish that I could have. I wouldn't have wanted to, because I don't like to mic everything up. But man, it feels so wonderful to know those parts of your story. Artwork is something we haven't talked about, and I really want to make sure we highlight it, because it's such. You're so well-rounded. You have this dichotomy of like intense, powerful, and then like it's like delicate and mindful work. Which at the same time, I'm sure there's a lot of synchrony there. So how did you get started with artwork, and what are you currently doing with it?
Yeah. So when I was really young, I started drawing horses because I really wanted one, and my dad hated horses. My mom grew up with horses, but they basically said I had to raise up enough money on my own in order to get horses if I wanted them. So while I was raising money as a child, trying to, get enough to buy a horse, I just started drawing them. And it was the only thing that I found that could keep me in a seat long enough to focus on anything. Because I was always just bouncing off the walls and everything. And so gradually, just over time, I just did more and more because I really enjoyed it. And again, just self-taught and everything. And when I was in college, my twin sister and I would take my artwork because it was a good recovery activity. Back then there wasn't, I'm dating myself. Back then there wasn't as many YouTube. I don't even think YouTube was around back then, stuff like that. So the options of just sitting there and watching TV or scrolling through social media wasn't around back then either. So, I dedicated myself to artwork and drawing and stuff like that. And then we started selling my artwork on the streets, and it actually funded a good majority of our Olympic careers, my twin sister and I, and our schooling too. And that's what helped us, get through the pay-to-play sport that we had signed ourselves up for.
That's incredible. I don't even think I've seen your artwork. I would really like to. where can people find your artwork? And do you do commissions?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
I took a hiatus the last 3 years while I was working out in Nevada, but I'm back diving into that full time now.
Okay.
And super excited about it. And I have a website. Completely outdated. I'm going to be updating it, but the Olympianartist.com. And, a lot of the stuff on there is white charcoal on black paper. And again, because I like doing things the hard way, I use the opposite side of the brain, and you draw what you wouldn't normally. So it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
And so it also gives it a more dramatic effect. So I have a lot of that on there, mostly because I started doing it, people really loved it.
Yeah. I'm trying to my brain is breaking. So like, for example, mountains, snow-capped mountains.
Right.
You would draw the snow. Or you would draw, like, what do you mean? Could you give an example?
Yeah. So, okay. Looking at your face, right? Mm-hmm. So if I were to draw your face, I would draw the dark parts and the shading and stuff like that. But if you do white charcoal, you have to do the opposite. So you do the highlights of everything.
Whoa.
Which is a lot harder because it's not the way the brain thinks.
Right.
So that's why I like that. But I pretty much do anything and everything. I'm right now I'm working on this corkboard piece. It's gigantic, and it's the outline, or it's elk shaded with the different pieces of cork, and I've named it Alcoholic. Because all my family and friends had to become alcoholics to be able to get enough cork to finish that piece for me.
That is so funny.
So
wine corks?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I thought you just meant you got cork board.
No. So the end of the cork, whether it's white wine or red wine, it has a certain color to it, and so I'm shading an elk with the cork. As a gigantic piece.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you don't do anything to the level of like, you take it.
Well, I don't know. I'll draw a stick figure.
Right. I'm sure you draw an amazing stick figure. My joke, Lena and I went to an art festival this last weekend. We took like an hour to do something non-gun related. And I found this canoe drawing, and when I was in 6th grade, I had my art teacher show me how to draw a canoe. I just really wanted to be able to draw a good canoe.
Yeah,
and it's like
hard.
I can actually draw the outline of a canoe, not to brag.
That's pretty good.
I always hope I get it in Pictionary. I'm like, this is my time to shine.
Yeah.
But drawing is just, I mean, if you need to really humble yourself, at least for me, I just try to draw something, even if it's like right there in front of me with the outline. It's like art's a whole nother level. I haven't even tried to approach it. So that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that part of yourself. And I'm going to tag everything we've talked about. Where there's a resource will be tagged in the show notes, which are the notes below the title. But I'll put it there so that our listeners can go check out this artwork. Because I'm burning with curiosity. I'm going to check it out after this. But yeah, that's incredible. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to be selfish, and Lanny and I are going to go get some drinks because we don't get together often. And also this is the second time we've ever chatted. But I have enjoyed so much learning this story of your life. I feel so grateful that you've taken the time. You flew in today. You have a big show tomorrow. The rest of the weekend. Are there some brands that you'd want to mention that you're here to support or that you're excited to hang out with? Yeah,
I love everybody here at the show because you don't get to see them, but maybe once or twice a year, SHOT Show, NRA, stuff like that. But I'm going to be in Fiocchi, Trigicon, High Vis, and Grizzly Ear booth. So.
Wonderful. Wait, what's the last one?
Grizzly Ears.
Oh, yeah. For hearing protection.
Yep.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah. Very cool. Yeah. Are those the ones that you had in at the PCC training?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yep.
Cool. Okay, I was wondering where those were from.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay, cool. I'll tag them below as well.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and I get to see you on the floor tomorrow. That's awesome.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
It's fun. Now this is like I think I'm coming up on year 3 truly in the industry, like out of medical school, out of school. And getting to meet people that I truly resonate with is a treat. It doesn't happen a lot. It's not that I have enemies, everywhere. I think there's only one person in this industry I truly avoid. Okay, there's two.
Yeah.
Hang on, there might be three. Moving on. Doesn't matter. Finding people, though, that I actually look forward to seeing at events, like, that's what gets me there. Like, I'm on the plane and I'm like, I get to see this person. It's not about the work I do there. But then again, my work is awesome. I get to work for Lena, so.
Yeah, well, the way I look at it, and you probably won't know this, but you're the female Lenny McGill. He owns the Glock store.
Oh, nice.
His story was he was in med school and he left it because he decided it wasn't what he wanted to do.
Right.
Had a career in Hollywood for a little while, and then created one of the biggest. I think he sells more Glocks than Glock does.
That's amazing.
But yeah,
that's so cool.
That's kind of your journey.
Yeah.
You know?
It kind of is. It's kind of wild. Yeah. I feel like if there's a listener that is truly. I'm sure we'll have a lot of new people coming to just listen to you, but if there's a recurring listener, they probably know because I mention it a lot. And I've not regretted it. I think there were a few months afterwards where I would have dreams of like running back to admin and being like, "Let me back in the school. I should have quit." But truly, just the people in this industry make it worth it. So
right, yeah, and you're destined for great things.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That means a lot coming from you. Yes. Yeah. And is there anything in 2025 that you're looking forward to? I know we're already in April, but is there anything you want to leave the listeners with that either as like an encouraging note, as I normally ask my guest speakers, or anything you're just wanting to send good vibes towards?
Yeah, absolutely. I always try to remind people that you can do anything you put your mind to. For my twin sister and I, we were just average, normal, everyday little girls, and we had dreams and put our minds to it, and we're able to make it to the Olympic stage. And if you can truly put your mind to it, you can do anything.
Thank you. I love that. Okay, well, that's a wrap on this episode, on episode 123, which is good.
I love it.
It sounds like I'm lucky. Yes, absolutely it does. The alignment is there. If you guys want to see the full video version, it's on YouTube, even though we are so dark right now. I didn't think about the sun going down. So this is great. It's not like I do videography for work or anything. But thank you again for coming on.
Absolutely, anytime.
For those of you listening, this full video and audio is on YouTube. I always forget to say it in the beginning, but if you're interested in seeing that, please check that out. The lovely Lisa Hamilton does those shorts you see that are so popular on Instagram, as if we're not being suppressed right now. So if you're interested in going and seeing those, you'll get to see clips of our guest speakers with some impressive B-roll and just some engaging content to get you excited about the episode if you're not sure which episode you want to listen to next. That is at She Shield Pod on all platforms: Instagram, TikTok, Livefire, YouTube, and everywhere else pretty much. All resources mentioned in the episode will be listed in the show notes, which are the notes below the podcast title. And if you liked the podcast, you can help by liking, subscribing, and leaving a review. We are now at, I believe, 4.9 stars. So if you want to help bring that up, go for it. And if you or anyone you know is a firearms owner experiencing a crisis, look into holdmyguns.org. They are an organization that will connect you with a local gun shop or FFL to store your firearm for you. The link to access their website and to find a storage location partner is available in the show notes. Thank you for listening. In the meantime, stay safe and stay vigilant. Are you ready to step up your shooting game? Introducing Walkers Inc., the pioneers in ear protection for shooting, hunting, and commercial applications. For over 25 years, they've been revolutionizing the industry, ensuring your hearing safety and enhancing your shooting experience. Anytime I'm on the range, indoor or outdoor, I use Walkers ear protection to have crystal clear communication with my fellow shooters. I personally use the disruptors for outdoor shooting and the recons for my indoor shooting adventures. Not only does it protect your hearing, but it also protects you. Being able to communicate with others on the range is vital to personal safety. You shouldn't have to sacrifice your safety when the ultimate goal is better self-protection. With Walkers, you'll experience unparalleled comfort, unmatched innovation, and the industry standard in shooting ear protection. Don't settle for anything less when it comes to your safety and enjoyment on the range. You can save on Walker's ear protection and support the podcast by using code SHESHIELD20, that's SHESHIELD 20 at checkout. Again, that's SHESHIELD20 at checkout.